We're joined in studio by State Senator Barrow Peacock and his challenger, Debbie Hollis, two candidates in the race. You two couldn't be more different. I'll start there. Barrow, you are a conservative. Would that be correct?
Yes, conservative, Republican.
Debbie, you on the other end of the spectrum.
Rather progressive, yes.
Okay. Why are you challenging a sitting incumbent state senator?
I think the question would be, why wouldn't I? Like we were having a conversation before we went on air, I think it's fair for everyone to be opposed in an election, and everyone should have choices. All of our voters should have choices. I'm honored that the voters chose me and asked me to run against Mr. Peacock. It's been a great learning experience, and I've made a lot of new friends. And it's been interesting to sit in the room with him and listen to the things that he says. I think that maybe we might have more in common than we know.
Where is the biggest difference between the two of you? Barrow, I'll start with you.
I believe I represent the vast majority of Shreveport-Bossier. I would say our differences on abortion. I'm pro-life. I believe in protecting the rights of the innocent unborn. My opponent is pro-choice.
Okay.
That is a major hot for guns. I believe in defending our Second Amendment right. I believe my opponent, and I don't want to, on your page, you've said that you believe in that you need to have a license to have a gun, that you need to register all of your guns that you have, which I believe that shows if you read in countries that you register, the government then will know where to come to pick them up when they're ready. And I believe in our Second Amendment rights, and I think my opponent says we should have gun registration and licenses to have a gun.
Is he accurate? Is he accurate in portraying your positions?
He's accurate, and then I think that we should register our weapons. And I grew up hunting and shooting. I still hunt and shoot, but I do think that in light of all the gun violence that we're facing here in America, that we do need to explore some common sense gun violence rules and regulations. And I've gotten death threats by gun owners for making that point, and I don't think that they see the irony in that.
How do you know? Did they give their names? Did they say?
They did. They gave their names, and
they
they said, I propose that we assassinate her by the end of the month.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, social media can be crazy. It can be crazy.
Yeah. But yes, he did represent a part of my views on gun violence.
You have posted on social media that you are, I believe, an agnostic atheist.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I have grown up in church, and I used to work in the church business. I worked at First Methodist, where Mr. Peacock is a member. I was the director of serving ministries, and I've suffered some trauma due to organized religion. And right now I'm at a point where I'm researching other faiths and other ways of believing and living in unison with people. I'm still, as I've always been, a follower of the teachings of Jesus, but I've also become a follower of the teachings of the Tao and Buddha and a couple of other world religions, because there's a lot of wisdom out there outside the walls of churches, and I'm very much learning a lot.
Well, today let's be more concerned with the wisdom in here.
Sure.
Has John Bell been a good governor?
Come see, come saw.
Where do you agree with the governor? Where do you disagree with the governor? Let's start with the gas tax. We go back a couple of years, and John Bell had proposed and had been backed up by his DOTD guy, Sean Wilson, 40 cents a gallon. Do you think that's right? Do you think, what do you think it should be?
Personally, I think any gas tax, sales tax increase is going to disproportionately affect low-income people. However, we do have a budget surplus now. It's not the budget surplus that we need, but it is a budget surplus, and that's something that we haven't had since Bobby Jindal was our governor.
Do you think that's good or bad?
Having a budget surplus is, of course, good.
Do you think that that means that we've been taxed too much?
No.
What kind of taxes would you propose then? If you're not for sales tax or gas tax, what tax would you support to pay for the infrastructure in our state?
So that is a great question. I used to work at the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development, and I understand how much money comes through the state of Louisiana as far as multinational corporations, our natural resources, things like that. There's no reason why 25% of our people should be living in poverty. The poverty rate is actually higher in Caddo and Bossier parishes in our district. I believe that multinational corporations should be made to pay their fair share of taxes, to take that burden off of our small and locally owned businesses, and also off of our property and homeowners.
Farrell, let's go back to the budget surplus.
Yes.
Aaron's thought, my thought, to be blunt about it, is that if we do in fact have a $500 million surplus, my sense is that Louise, you go ahead.
That's getting too big of a surplus, and you do want to be on the surplus side versus the deficit. You don't want to have mid-year cuts, but when our economists do their revenue estimating, and revenue estimating is meeting this week, and they'll look at the numbers and they'll say, is it reoccurring or is it one-time money? And that's a big determination, and we'll know that this week. But when we make decisions in Baton Rouge, we have to do it on the information that is provided to us. And it comes usually from the departments, the Department of Revenue, which is under Governor Edwards, under his secretary. So we have to question, are you giving us the right information? Are you holding back information that you could give us so we can make it the informed decision at the time? You asked about roads and stuff. I've been an advocate of rededicating that 0.45 slowly over time, and now it can be moved faster, to our roads and bridges. The state of Texas dedicates a half a penny of sales tax to roads and bridges. And that catches all vehicles, Teslas and electric vehicles. More cars are getting more efficient. So, we need to pay for our roads and bridges and invest in infrastructure. How do you do that? And there's that argument. It hadn't been increased in 30 plus years. Cars are more efficient. Well, the 0.45, you could rededicate that. And I had a bill this past year that the administration and DOTD opposed. I think that would have been the right thing. Let's see if DOTD can be trusted to finally show us that they will do what they've told us all the time. There's not a lot of trust, unfortunately, in this state for DOTD to put the money out on new roads and bridges. We need to build a new Jimmy Davis Bridge. It is to be let July 2020. There is $23.9 million in capital outlay from the state. With that money, from the federal money, we should be able to build a new Jimmy Davis Bridge that provides $119 million. I-49. We've got to finish I-49. The $100 million from the BP economic settlement to complete I-49 is crucial for our area. It will not only help with economics, the studies have produced $800 million a year that it's supposed to generate, but it connects our community. If you're in North Caddo or North Bossier Parish and you need to unfortunately get to that Trauma 1 level center, 3.8 miles connecting people versus saying, get off at 220 and come down North Market, come down Hearn, go down Murphy, make, from a 15-minute ride to a 3.8, that's a huge, to save
Debbie, you're
lives.
opposed to that. You're opposed to I-49.
Absolutely, I am. And one quick point about the budget surplus before we leave that topic altogether. I was reading in the AP News report this morning that our Republican treasurer, John Schroeder, said that the upcoming surplus deficit will boost our savings balance to more than $530 million, which is its highest level since 2014. But that's not enough, Schroeder said. He said, you've got to be well over $1 billion to be healthy. If we're going to create some stability in the state, having a healthy savings account is part of that stability. So I think when we've got people in a Republican administration saying that this budget surplus is good, but it's not enough, I think we need to pay attention to that because they're supposed to be the fiscal conservatives.
We have Mr. Schroeder on Wednesday? We can ask him to interpret. Well, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be listening that morning. Yeah. So back to the I-49 interstate connector through Allendale. So there's really no place in Shreveport that you can't get in about 15 minutes. And Mr. Peacock kind of acts like we don't have ambulance services here. So I've been working in Allendale for a long, long time. Ever since I was the director of serving ministries at First Methodist, I helped the Fuller Center start building their first houses in Allendale. It's a blossoming community. It's an historic community. There's a beautiful community garden there. And one of my dear friends, Hardette Harris, just opened a restaurant there. And she got a legislative commendation for creating the official meal of North Louisiana. So I think there's a lot of potential in Allendale and a lot that's already happening that doesn't even count as potential that we don't need to mow down with concrete.